was a teen writer, as most adult authors once were, but I am now in my 20s, and the teen writer angle just doesn't work for me anymore. This video is going to be all about that transition. I'm going to share some of the reasons why I think I was so tied to my identity as a teen writer, and some of the unexpected benefits of going through a bit of an identity crisis. So to give you a little bit more context, this here means a lot to me, because it is the first piece of merch that I made for my very first internet project, which was a website called Teen Authors Journal. Write, publish, inspire. I created a website called Teen Authors Journal, a community blogging site for teen authors around the world. In 8th grade, I started to take this website way too seriously for my own good. I was getting an average of 4 hours of sleep every night. I honestly don't know how I was surviving like that. And before you ask, the answer is yes, my classmates despised me, but I was also the new kid who was an introvert and thought she was some kind of tech whiz for knowing just basic CSS, so I kind of had it coming. Long story short, I shut down Teen Authors Journal because I recognized that it was taking too much time out of my life, and I kind of just wanted to be a high schooler and focus on writing my own books and not also writing articles and fixing bugs in the site and stuff like that. Today is an important day for me because today I'm shutting it down. However, even after the site was gone, I still kept in touch with a lot of the writers who I met on the platform, and I still really rooted myself into the teen author community. If you scroll through a lot of my older videos, I mention my age a lot. All around the world, you can find teens who write books in their free time. Hi everyone, my name is Mel, and I am the 17-year-old author of Leaving Wishville. I actually published early this month. So the story behind this book goes all the way back to when I was 10 years old. I started writing fiction for the first time when I was 7 years old. In that video, I reflected on a book I started writing at the age of 10 and published in 7th grade. Anyways, I'm sure you already got the point a long time ago. I cared about my teen author identity a lot, but I wanted to share some theories as to why that might be. The first factor that I suspect is praise as a young child. I think the fact that I was obsessive about something considered fairly productive, I suppose, versus something like video games, which kind of has more of a negative connotation. I think that was something that adults wanted to point out and praise me for, and so that became something that I really tied to my identity and was proud of. The second thing is a little bit more complicated, not to get too touchy-feely here, but I wasn't the most social kid, and I struggled to make friends quite a bit. Being a teen writer just instantly connected me with so many people online who I could relate to. It gave me a sense of belonging that I didn't really have with peers at school. And I don't necessarily think that me feeling kind of isolated growing up is a rare experience for writers. In my experience with the writers that I've met, the vast majority of them have been introverts and have expressed some feelings of isolation or not fitting in. Given this, I think it's quite common for teen writers to kind of group together and share a bond. Alright, moving on to my third theory. I posted a video where I tried Haruki Murakami's strict schedule for a week. It just took off one day overnight, and I woke up to tons of comments, tons of views. That was the first video that I can recall where I made substantial money from YouTube. I decided that I wanted to hire a marketing expert because my book was coming up pretty soon, and I wanted to launch it right. I was scrolling through some of the options of people I could hire, and the woman who really stood out to me was on the marketing team for a book by Ned Vizzini. So if you're not familiar with him, he was a teen writer who wrote Be More Chill, the novel, which was later adapted into the musical, which I really liked as a teenager as well. I had read one of his books, not Be More Chill, I forget what the other one was called. Oh, I remember, it was called It's Kind of a Funny Story. I had read that book, so I was familiar with his work, so I decided to hire her and get her advice. The one thing that she really drilled home was, you are so young, take advantage of it, mention it everywhere, make use of your age. The first time it really hit me that I could no longer rely on the teen author identity was when I was around 18, and I moved to Thailand from the US with my best friend from high school. It was quite the adventure. It was a lot of fun. During that time, I ended up joining a co-working space. So there were a ton of people there who were from all sorts of places from all over the world, somehow ended up in Thailand, some long-term, some just for about a month or so. And I met a lot of really cool people who are working on their own creative projects, and we'd all work together at our own desks or shared desks, and it was a cool social place, and kind of like high school, I will say. There were these cliques and groups, and it was kind of fun, I will admit. I noticed that once I moved there, people either didn't care that I was younger than a lot of them, or they just assumed that I was older. It didn't really matter. The reality of the fact was I was living in the adult world now, and so when people asked me what I did for work, what am I writing when I'm at the co-working space typing away, and I responded that I was an author, there was no longer this shock or astonishment of,
"Oh wow, that's so awesome. How did you manage to publish so young? And how did you start writing at such a young age?"
It was not framed around being a teen writer anymore. It was, oh cool, what type of books do you write? So this ended up being actually a really good thing for me, because before, I was relying, I think, on my teen author identity too much, to the point where I really didn't learn how to define my work specifically. When I published my debut novel, Leaving Wishful, I really struggled with how to fit it into a certain category. At one point, categorized it as middle grade. At one point, I categorized it as YA. With genres, it was also a mess. Fantasy, then it was realistic fiction with a hint of fantasy, and then it was magical realism. In certain parts of the writing community, people poke fun at how, no, your book is not 10 different genres. A book can have elements of many genres, but you need to sit down and decide what fits it best. The types of readers who will enjoy it, where are they? That kind of stuff I didn't really do, and this new situation forced me to really think about, well, what is it that makes my book special? What kind of books do I write? Why do I write them? What type of people would be interested in them, besides just teen writers who happen to like my content on YouTube? If it's not your age, there are still so many possibilities as to why people would read your work, right? I've been able to identify, in my book specifically, that I tend to write books with morally gray characters and bold endings and a bit of awkward humor mixed in. I had to do the same thing at my publishing house, and that was absolutely necessary. Thanks to this identity crisis I had in Thailand, I was able to successfully rebrand Lost Island Press as specializing in YA dystopian, soft sci-fi, and low fantasy books. It ended up forcing me to recreate the entire way that I position my publishing house, redo the entire website, create a new and better logo, and just overall, it gave me a lot of clarity.
For every experience, no matter the outcome, you learn something valuable.
Well, first of all, I learned that this doesn't really have that much to do with being a teen author versus being an adult author. It just has to do with life changing and you being forced to sometimes redefine yourself in a more accurate way. I went through a similar experience recently when I moved from Thailand back to the United States. I had a lot of descriptions on my website and in my books, my kind of author bios, mentioning that I was an author based out of Thailand, that I moved to Thailand and was writing in these unique locations, and it kind of became part of my identity in a similar way that being a teen author was part of my identity. There are so many different factors that can change. It could be your age, it could be the location that you live in, it could be the genres that you write in, because maybe down the line you want to write high fantasy out of nowhere. Most ways that you position yourself are going to be subject to change. That's not a scary thing, or that's not something that's a risk to your future. I was afraid that once I hit the horrible 20, I would no longer be able to make teen writer content, and therefore I would have to start all over, find a whole new thing. I would lose it all and have to build it again. But that's really not the case. All you have to do is find other ways that make you special and that make your work special, that are already there. So all of these changes that I've made to how I position myself online, how I position my publishing house, it's nothing new. I didn't decide, okay, from now on, we're gonna focus on YA, dystopian, fantasy, and sci-fi books. I looked at our previous list of titles and I found the common genres that kind of overlap each other, that a lot of our books fit into at least one of, oftentimes even 2 or 3 of them. And then I also looked at my own books and found commonalities, like the awkward humor, morally Greek characters, and the ending, stuff like that, which I talked about earlier. So all of those things were already there. I was just able to identify them and focus on those things instead. Your identity at the end of the day is just what you choose to focus on. Even if you don't focus on being a teen writer anymore, there are still so many other ways that make your work unique. You just have to sit down and really think about them and define them and put them into words. So I guess if there's a piece of advice that I would give to other teen authors, is to just start this process a little earlier than I did and start thinking about other ways that make your book unique. Don't get too lazy like me and just focus on, oh, I'm a young author and here's a book I wrote. Other young authors will be interested in this because I'm a young author. It's still, I believe, a great way to position yourself. However, I think it's also really important to think about other ways that your books are unique. What are the genres that you really focus on? And if you write across various genres, what are the themes? What is the common thread between your work that makes it feel like you're writing? What are the many ways that make your book special? And so I want to challenge all of the teen writers watching this video, or all of the ex-teen writers who are maybe in a similar transitional phase as me, to leave a comment below with at least 3 different ways that your books stand out. I think going through this exercise is very helpful, especially down the line when certain parts of your identity change. You still have some things that stick around that you can continue to focus on, and you don't feel as lost as I did. Now, before I end off this video, I just want to share a quick update about Underground Royalty, which is the 2nd book in the Belladonna trilogy that I'm working on, and I'm almost done. I am 2 writing sessions away from finishing this draft. Today, I was working on the 2nd to last chapter. Actually, no, it was the last chapter of the book. I've never cried that hard, I think, writing a scene ever. I was writing a death scene of a character who I really, really love, and I'm still upset about it to this very moment. I feel like if I get emotional, it's more likely that those emotions will reach the reader as well, so it makes me feel good, I guess. If you haven't read the Belladonna trilogy yet, I invite you to read the first book. It is called Nightshade Academy, and I'll have a link in the description where you can purchase a copy directly from Lost Island Press. The 2nd book, which is the one I was talking about that really broke me today, is called Underground Royalty, and it's coming out on May 10th, but you can actually pre-order it right now, and I'll have a link in the description to do that as well if you're interested. I also wanted to mention that about 2 months ago, I signed an artist at Lost Island Press who has been composing original music for us. Actually, all of the music you've heard in this video has been composed by him. His name is Looney, and his work is awesome. He put together an album, which we've just released on the Lost Island Press channel. You may recognize the art. I had a music playlist called Calming Music to Read and Write To on this main channel, and I had to take it down due to copyright issues, but I'm happy to share that I've finally reposted it, and this time it has fully original music that was composed by Looney. He's been working on this album for the past couple of months, and we've been talking back and forth by email week by week, so it's been quite the long process, and I'm so pleased with how the songs turned out, and he was really excited to share them as well. So if you're currently looking for a new writing or reading playlist to listen to, it would mean a lot to both Looney and I if you could check it out on the Lost Island Press YouTube channel. And I'm also happy to share that we're working on more music playlists as well. The next playlist I already have the art for, which I'll show on the screen here. The music is going to be a bit more intense and mysterious than the one that we just released recently. the ad revenue from the music playlists on the Lost Island Press YouTube channel will go towards future publications at Lost Island Press, so by listening to those playlists, you're directly supporting our publishing house. And last but not least, I hope you like my rose. This is a metal rose that I purchased on Etsy and I love it. It's my new favorite thing. So anyways, that's all for today's video. I will see you in the next one. Bye.
Get lost.